Welcome to Pillar Talk with Rochelle, where authentic people share real stories focusing on one of the 12 pillars in my book, Simply Complex, Leading Out of Authenticity. I am your host, Rochelle Armstrong, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Well, hello and welcome to Pillar Talk with Rochelle. For those of you who are actually watching YouTube, check out the background. That's right. I'm in a studio today. Thanks to today's guest, Coach Bibb. You want to say hello to our audience?
Hello, Pillar Talk. I'm super excited to be a part of this podcast. It's one of the favorite podcasts that I listen to. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, it's such an honor to be here. I know that I've been doing this for a little while now, and with the exception of one, all of them have been over Zoom. But, it's so nice just having the studio feel, being in person, because I love connecting with my guests. So just thank you and Gail for allowing me to record here.
This is exciting.
This is so nice. All right. So what I like to do is set a little context to let you know how I know each guest.
Right.
And then he'll share a little more about himself. So being someone who's been coaching for over 15 years, we've had the honor of our daughter Deja playing for him on an AAU team, Be Elite.
Yep.
And that was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. But if you're wondering how do we stay connected, because over that time, he's been super supportive. And so he didn't have anything to gain, no self-interest. Even our high school games, although he's not a high school coach, he would still come out to come and see Deja, other players. Like he's into investing into the whole person, not just the basketball player. And so I just want to say thank you for that. And you want to share with our audience a little more about you?
Yeah, so I've been coaching basketball for 15 plus years. Started out coaching boys and then transferred over to girls. But the way that I got started coaching boys was I had a stepson. He wanted to kind of get involved in fourth grade basketball.
Okay.
And this was just like a rec league. And so I took the rec league. I took all the knowledge that I had, put it into this rec league because I was watching his coaches and I was just like, man, these guys don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
And I was just like, hey, I think I'm going to have to help. And it just went from there. Like I went from helping to actually taking over. And then from there, I created my first program, which was called the Little Yellow Jackets.
I know about the Little Yellow Jackets.
And so I started kind of growing and then that brought in kids from all throughout the city. And while they were good at basketball, some of these kids had a tough home life.
Yes.
And so just because of the way that I was raised, I wasn't about to just coach basketball and then say, all right, see you later. Don't worry about how you're going to eat or any of that other stuff.
Right.
So next thing I know, it was like I had kids staying with me and it just kind of grew from there.
Wow.
And these boys became a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely wouldn't trade that for anything. And so fast forward 10 years later from that experience, I was working in a program where they had girls and boys, but I was still working with the boys. I was the assistant director, so I had knowledge of the girls, but I wasn't coaching.
Okay.
And then we had sent the girls to a tournament in Lexington. And then the next thing I know, 2 days into the tournament, I get a phone call that says, the coach quit.
Oh.
In the middle of the tournament, the coach was like, these girls' attitude is bad. I don't want to coach them. And these girls was only in fourth grade.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't understand that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how does a fourth grade have a bad attitude? Like, even if they do, they ain't gonna have it with me.
I heard that.
So I was like, okay. So the parent that called me, I just said, hey, bring them back. I'll deal with it when you guys get back. And that next day, I remember having practice with them, and I was just like super tough.
Okay.
I was like, just because I said to myself, I wasn't going to coach them different than I coach boys.
Thank you.
And I had so much experience coaching boys that I was just like, I'm not about to change just because these are girls.
Mm-hmm.
Like basketball is basketball for everybody.
Yes.
It's not girls basketball or boys, but it's basketball. And so I remember coaching the girls and being really tough on them, and they loved it. And they were like, the parents loved it,
Ooh, I like
the
that.
kids loved it, and I was expecting it to be like boys because I had so much experience coaching boys, and what I know about fourth grade boys and younger boys is that they cry. They cry a lot. And as soon as you get on them, the tears and the water, they ball their fist up and they get frustrated because we don't know as boys how to express emotion outside of that
I
at
can see
such
that.
a young age.
Right.
And with the girls, it was the opposite. Like yeah, I was getting on them, but they wasn't about to cry about it. They were, they were just like, okay, if I need to do it, I'll do it. And I thought that was so unique. And so that just made me fall in love with coaching girls. And
Sweet.
I just took it from there and ran with it. And, those girls ended up, and I stopped coaching boys altogether. Like,
how amazing is this
Yeah.
story?
yeah. So that was the kind of the snowball that led.
Well, I like that. So as I'm listening to your story, and I'm definitely intrigued, tell me a little more about the why. Like, where did that passion for basketball come from?
Yeah. So my family, the way that I grew up, my dad has a large family,
Okay.
and so he has like 9 brothers and sisters. I think maybe more, maybe like 11 of them. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Okay.
But everybody played or loved basketball.
Okay.
And so my grandfather's house, he put a basketball goal up in the backyard. And me and my 2 brothers, we had to go against my dad. We had to go against my uncles. And it wasn't easy. Like,
highly competitive.
highly competitive. And they would let you know, like, I come from a family of, we trash talk kind of in a sly way. Like,
Yes.
we ain't gonna be negative, but we just gonna be able to let you know you can't play with me. And my uncles, like, it was just my goal to always be able to beat my uncles with that.
Of course.
And then so that's how I grew up. And then, I took that, went on to play high school basketball. And I remember my sophomore year of high school, and we didn't have a lot of money. And so I remember I had low cut tennis shoes that I had to try out in. And in these low cut tennis shoes, they were a little too big.
I see where this is going.
Right, but they were a little too big, but I didn't let that slow me down. And I really, like, at the time, I didn't know this is what I was doing. But now I can reflect, I dominated the tryouts. Like, I was just really, like, just gave it my all. Like, and the coach acknowledged that. Like, he kind of, like, saw me. So that made me feel good. So I had a good sophomore season, played JV and varsity. And then I remember coming back my junior year, I just remember the coach's attitude towards me kind of changed a little bit. But my why started because our football team was awful. And my friends played football, and they were almost embarrassed to be on the football team. But we got a new coach. And when we got a new coach, I watched my friends go from being embarrassed to be on the football team to, like, running through a wall for the football coach. Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it was like the whole school was buzzing because the football team was now good, but it all stemmed from the mindset of this coach. His name is Bob Redmond. He literally changed the mindset of my friends. And I watched it, and I was like, man, this guy is positive, and he makes these guys believe in themselves. And on the opposite end, my coach was cussing us out and negative. And I just remember saying, like, I'll never want a kid to have the feeling that I had.
That's right.
And so that's where my passion for coaching comes from, is I just want kids to know that somebody believes in them.
Yes.
No matter the skill level, somebody believes in you. To whatever you set your mind to do, I'm gonna be there to support you.
And you do exactly that. And I know that my daughter Deja, she has benefited from that.
Mhm.
And I am grateful for you. And if I can just share this. So what he's saying about his coaching style and how he doesn't coach girls any different than boys is so true. And the feminist in me so appreciates that because in the spirit of equality and wanting to be treated as equal, I do believe we're strong and tough.
Absolutely.
A matter of fact, where does the saying even come from? Fight like a girl. Who
I-
made that
Who made
up? But and Deja has that same attitude and determination, and she appreciated your coaching style, although you were a little intimidating.
Yeah.
Like, but they knew that you didn't play, but you also believed in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's how it is in the world.
It is so true.
And nobody's gonna give you anything or make exception to you because of your gender.
No.
And I wanted them to know, like, just because I might get on you, that doesn't change how I feel about you.
That's
It doesn't
right.
change the way that I think about you. I just want you to be the best version of you. And if this is what we're working on right now, basketball, be the best version of it. Be the best at it. And in order to get there, I gotta help you. I gotta correct you. I gotta show you a better path. And you may think you're going hard and you may think you're giving maximum effort, but I know there's more inside of you. That's what coaching is.
I love that. So when you think about, like you told your why, and you think about like your style as a coach, and you kind of mimic that after someone who you admire, like what is it that you instill in players that, maybe like, recently Deja said she didn't want to play ball anymore.
Right.
So what does that conversation look like from a coach?
Yeah. So Deja, just using her as the example, when I've had players come to me before and say, "Hey, I don't think I want to play anymore,"
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, "No, you're not quitting."
Okay.
Because that's what it is. You're
Mhm.
quitting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a huge difference between quitting and being done. Like you've reached your maximum level and you're done. And so the conversation with the player that's quitting, we got to get to the bottom of why it is you want to give up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it may be a little challenging, because you may not be getting a lot of minutes, because you feel like you're not getting better.
Mm-hmm.
All of those are not valid reasons for giving up.
I heard that.
But when a player comes to me and says, in Deja's case, "Hey, I'm going to not play basketball this year because I'm focusing on this,"
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited.
As
Like,
a coach, you're really good.
I'm like, oh my God, because
Okay.
I actually wish that a lot of kids would come to that realization earlier.
Mm.
Either give me everything in basketball or step aside and give everything to what it is that you want to pursue.
I love it.
That is what this coaching is all about. Is if I can help you realize and reach your potential, that this is something you want to put all your eggs into pursuing, I'm going to help you do that.
You're about that.
Yes, absolutely.
How admirable. Well, listeners, again, as you set context and you get to know the whole person, coaching is such an integral part of your life.
Yeah.
Like to the point that it runs through your veins, right?
Yes,
and so I really wanted to set that up. But today's pillar we're going to focus on is what?
Simply complex.
That's right. And so we're going to talk about simply complex. And what I ask is for you to kind of take this in any direction that you want to go into to help our listeners really understand what simply complex means to you.
Yeah. So for one, I absolutely love your book.
You're so sweet.
And even when I saw the title of it, I was intrigued by what that meant and kind of the format that you had laid it out. So when I had the opportunity to read it, it just all kind of made sense for me, because people don't, you can't tell what someone has went through by just meeting or having an interaction with them. And so for me, simply complex describes me, because I encounter a ton of parents, a ton of players that think they know me because they've had the interaction with me in the basketball circle
That's right.
that they now want to label me a certain way. But the reality is I'm much more complex than that.
Mm-hmm.
So basketball is really simple to me. It's really
Mm.
helping kids reach the level that they're capable of.
Yes.
That's simple. I can do that while I'm sleeping.
Yes.
I tell this story all the time about one of my assistant trainers. He's better than me. His name is Wayne Gill, but he is the only other person I know besides myself. We can go to sleep in the gym full of kids with basketballs bouncing because that's how much we love the sound of just being in that environment. So that's simple for me.
I hear you.
The complex part of that is, am I going to be there for Deja when she says she wants to be done playing basketball?
Right.
Or am I, oh, you don't want to play basketball? Well, I'm done talking. Or, a kid doesn't want to play anymore. Oh, I'm done talking. So, for me, that's the complex part of it because coaching for me is being at the math tournament.
That's right.
Or being at the high IQ tournament.
Uh-huh.
Because I've been at those and, it's always funny to me. I remember going to this school, it was a Catholic school, I think Holy Spirit. And I had a player that was training with me. She was on the math team.
Uh-huh.
And the math test, it was like a competition. Like there's this old show called High IQ that was just like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was like this math team versus this math team from this school. And I showed up and now, the teacher's like, now who are you? And I'm like, I'm your coach. Like I'm coaching her in basketball. She's like, oh, and she wanted so bad to say, but why are you here?
Oh, I know, right?
And I was just like, but that's coaching. Like to me, I don't understand how you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the complex side of things for me, that I think kind of talks to what your book talks about. Because the other thing is my favorite quote in your book in that particular chapter is the opposite of simply complex is perfection.
Did he just quote me?
Yes.
Yes. I'm still not comfortable with that yet, but continue to share.
Yes, because it not only helped me realize that I wasn't the only one to struggle with that, but there are other people because that is one of my biggest struggles. And it is, I thank God that he has helped deliver me and is continuing to help deliver me from just being perfect. And, it's a real struggle.
So let's talk a little more about perfectionism. I'm hearing that's a part of your complexity.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing simple about being perfect.
Right.
Or wanting to be perfect. Right. It's almost illogical.
Yep.
Right? First thing I'm going to ask you about perfection. Where do you think perfection comes from in us?
I think it comes from the standards that we see. Stuff that's ingrained in us subconsciously that we don't even realize.
Okay.
Like, for me, I'm real big into my fitness and my physical, but that is ingrained in me just because of the things that I saw that I really didn't even know was affecting me. So, images that we see, and I think that's one of the reasons I love coaching girls is because I want to help get rid of that type of stuff early on. Like I don't want you thinking that you should be a certain way or have to carry yourself a certain way, because if we allow society to put these things on us, then that's, to me, where perfection comes from.
Nicely stated. And so what I would like to do is have you share with our guests or our listeners a little more about your struggles specifically with perfectionism. So do you have a specific example to share?
Absolutely. I think for me, the thing that stands out right at the tip of my tongue is in 2016, I started on a journey to open up my own sports complex.
Okay.
It's something that I felt is and still feel is needed in this community because I grew up in boys and girls groups.
Right.
Yes. And unfortunately, those don't exist anymore. Or even if they do exist in 2021, they're wrapped in red tape.
Talk a little more about that red tape.
Yeah, it's like when I grew up, if I went with my friend and caught the bus home and went to the Boys and Girls Club, there was a figurehead, male or female, that greeted me
Yes,
and
sir.
said, "Who are you? Where are you from? And oh, okay, well, you gonna be here today. This is how you gonna act."
That's right.
In 2021, you can't find that because the red tape that surrounds these Boys and Girls Clubs now are so government politically inclined, and it's like you got to have a membership and you got to
Okay.
belong and all this other stuff, and I'm like, it's not how I learned how to interact with people. That's
Right.
not how I learned how to have friends
Mhm.
or meet new people or go to new places, and we're just so separated. And so I want to use basketball as a tool to basically create that environment,
Okay.
and I believe that's what God has called me to do. And so in 2016, I started on that journey.
Mhm.
Business plan and drawings and contractors, and really taken from 2016 to 2020 to really walk out the steps, the
Mhm.
necessary steps, and securing funding and doing all of these things. And I mean, for one stretch of time, I was back and forth between here in Indianapolis because they've created some of these facilities in Indianapolis, and so I was meeting with the partners that run those facilities to learn about what I needed to do.
Nice.
And uh, the perfection kind of came to a head in that in 2020, when the world shut down, everything stopped,
Mhm.
and it kind of left me holding the bag.
Yeah.
And it was a huge blow for me personally, um, financially, and quiet as kept for my ego.
Of course.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
that's real talk.
that's the perfectionism that kind of popped his head up that I didn't know existed.
Ooh, can you stay here for a moment?
Yeah.
So, perfectionism, is that really about ego?
Yes, it is. 100%.
So talk about that. You know, I process because you do watch the show
Yeah,
faithfully. So you know I like to process. So as I am processing, talk a little more about the complexity of that dynamic between ego and perfectionism.
Yeah, so ego, if you heard this, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but it's edging God out.
Never heard it.
It's edging God out. And what I didn't realize was in the walk that I was so humbly calling myself on with this facility, it was starting to define me. It was starting to be what I needed my identity to be shaped around. And God was like, wait a minute, I didn't redeem you, save you, and do all of these things for you to put your identity into a facility.
For 4 years, you've invested for 4 years. The world stops in 2020.
Yeah,
Your ego is messed up. It
Yeah.
impacts your finances.
absolutely.
You get stuck.
Mhm.
Now what?
And now what? And the now what of the perfection side of it, I stopped.
Just
I
period.
just froze, and I didn't know which direction to go in. Like, what am I like? For one, the world has stopped. So what do I look like talking to a bank about building a facility when we don't even know if we can go inside a building?
Right.
So, all of those things played a factor, and it was like, well, if I can't have these conversations and ongoing business plans moving forward, I might as well stop. And that was the perfectionist in me.
Right.
And
But how do you keep going? So like the reality is the world did pause for a moment. And so all of that is on your shoulders. So what do you feel like you could have done differently to overcome the perfectionism if some of these barriers were really there?
Yeah, surrender.
Okay, surrender. Okay.
Just really realizing that I didn't get to that level and that plateau by myself.
Okay.
And that it was me following God's steps. It was me following. He gave me the vision. He opened the doors. So when I stopped, I felt like I was stopping because all the doors were closed, and that it wouldn't make sense for me to keep moving forward. But I had to come to that realization that I didn't open the doors to begin with.
So you're gonna preach on my podcast? He gonna preach on my podcast? But go ahead.
Yeah, just open the doors. That helped me realize, like, wait a minute, have I surrendered to the foundation of why all of this started? And because I hadn't, it just gave me that realization that I was trying to be perfect. And that is when God said, "Oh, now you ready to talk?" And I was like, "Oh, this is where I'm struggling." Because the idea of the plans kind of pausing, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it wasn't okay for me because I was like, well, who am I gonna be if this stops?
Yes.
And that is, I think, one of your pillars is identity.
I was, as you were talking, but we're not gonna do no humble mentions here for me. But you said it, and I was thinking about that.
Yeah, one of your pillars is identity, and that was the wake up call for me. Is like, my identity is in Christ.
Yes.
My identity is not in the elite. My identity is not in my facility. My identity is not in anything that I have or belong to. It's in Christ.
Yeah.
And I've had to come a very long way to even have this mindset, but it's because of all the struggles and trials that I've been through and the life that I lived that was not of God that got me to this place. So I can't now all of a sudden think that I'm the one responsible for it. Because I'm
wake up call, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners can relate. I can relate.
Right.
And so when you're a perfectionist, and are you saying past tense? Are you still a perfectionist?
I'm working my way to recovery.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to believe that I'm not, but
Right.
I know that I still struggle
Of
with
course.
it. And so part of that is acknowledging the struggle.
Absolutely.
And I've got to acknowledge it so that I don't, slip into it again.
Yes.
So
yes.
yeah, I'm working my way past it.
So when I hear you describe your work ethic, your dreams, your vision, grandiose, like you dream big. What I'm interested in knowing, and maybe our listeners as well, what perception do other people have of someone like you with such high expectations, big dreams? What does that look like in terms of other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that goes back to the title, Simply Complex.
Talk about it, yes.
Because in the basketball community, where I interact with so many parents or interact with so many players,
Yes.
it's simple.
Uh-huh.
But the complex part of that is when I have to keep it at coaching. And I have to keep it like to where there's a fine line, and not everybody understands that. Not everybody understands the level that I see things on, and not everybody understands the level that I operate on. So the simple part of it is being in the environment, being with kids, loving basketball, training. The complex side of it is knowing that not everybody's going to understand what I say or understand my vision or understand where it is that I kind of see even their player.
Right.
It's simple and it's complex.
It is.
It's simple and complex.
So because I have a personal relationship with you, and I'm gonna say I was under your leadership because my daughter was under your leadership. So I feel like I was under your leadership. I know from personal experience, like some of the chatter, like some of the things parents would say. And what I would say, I try to be open-minded. I personally don't have to understand all of your plan or see the big picture.
Yeah.
But if I can kind of picture your end goal or your end game, and I know that you have my child's best interest at heart, I can follow you.
Yeah.
I think the struggle with most people, especially parents, because we're just protective of our kids, you're a parent, so you get it, is trusting someone with our kids, whether if it's their basketball career, so what type of experiences or maybe backlash did you get as a coach for those reasons?
Great question again. And I have some great peers.
Okay.
I have great peers in the basketball community in this city. Some of the names I could go on for days, but David Tapley, who's the head of Kentucky Premier, Tim Barnett, who's the head of Focus Basketball Academy, Dion Lee, he's the head of Louisville Legends. All of these guys face a level of criticism. All of us face a level of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I can say about each one of them, and I've had like intricate conversations with them, it's always funny to us that for the amount of time that we've been doing this, and let's say you got an 8-year-old, and I've been doing this 15 plus years, but you all of a sudden have more knowledge than me, and I've been doing this for double-digit years, longer than your child's been alive.
Okay.
I now know more than you, and that is always funny, but it's also it's simple and it's complex, because on the surface I can brush it off. The complex part of it is it kind of hurts when people think you have an ulterior motive for anything that you're doing involving kids.
That's right.
And the thing about coaching is there's a lot of coaches, but there aren't a lot of leaders.
Talk about that. That is my specialty, leadership. Let's talk about it.
There's a lot of coaches, but there aren't a lot of leaders. And there aren't even a lot of people that are willing to step up to that level of coaching leadership. And when you're a coaching leader, it's really not even about coaching.
Okay.
And that's how you have the privilege of being involved in so many people's lives.
Yes.
Is when you're a leader, it's not just about basketball.
No.
It's like, hey, such is actually getting an award for. I literally just got invited 2 days ago to a lacrosse game.
A lacrosse.
Yeah.
And you coach, just to be clear, you coach what? Basketball. Okay. Finish your story.
The mom, she invited me because I just checked on the kid, like because the kid was one of the best girls I had ever seen. In fact, when I found her, she was playing with boys.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, this girl can play. Like, I got a whole girls program. We got her involved. But this girl loved lacrosse. And she had to make a tough decision. So I'm like, okay, you're going to go play lacrosse? I'm going to support you.
Nice.
So to me, that's the level of leadership. So when things come about that are attacking us as leaders, coaching leaders, and I'm talking about the gentleman that I mentioned, when things happen that attack us, it's hard for us to even understand what you're talking about because people don't know the complex side of what we do, which is literally being involved in these kids every aspect of their lives. Absolutely. So I hope that answers.
No, and you answered it perfectly. And so in all fairness, I like for people to get all perspectives. Yeah. I just think that there's always two sides to a story. Some people say there's two sides and then there's the truth. But if we're going to have you as a guest on the podcast today, I think it's only fair that we cover everything, you know. And so, again, as a coach and as a parent, you told your origin story of how you got into coaching and the passion you have for it and how much you believe in what you do and the girls.
Yeah.
At this point, anyone can form their own opinion, right? So there's perception. So I'm sure people get certain perception of you. Then there's who you are as a coach. So again, I've been under your leadership. You have a no-nonsense attitude. You don't play. But not once did I question your judgment or your leadership. I actually like your big vision and how you do encourage our girls to be their best self despite gender, or because we are girls and we rock. Yeah. You know, so but you see that as well. Absolutely. And so as we're talking about the dynamic, it does get complex. Yeah. So can you think about a particular time? And let's go ahead and talk about basketball that maybe it was a situation regarding basketball that should have been simple that got complex.
Wow, no, that's tough.
I'll make you think.
It's a time that should have been simple that it was really complex.
And that's objective.
Hmm.
So in your mind.
Yeah, in my mind. Uh, man, I would probably say anytime it is time for me to move in a different direction and it affects everybody.
Mm.
I think that is always tough because it's never easy.
Mm-mm.
And you got to make decisions based on um, not just yourself or not just your feelings, but
Mm.
for everybody. And okay, so as I was talking, this comes to mind. So I have two sisters that are two of my favorite people.
Mm-hmm.
They We had to make a tough decision for them, and it was whether to continue to stay in the program that they were in that again was under my leadership, or do they branch out and go to a different program. And when we made the decision together, like there was a lot of prayer, a lot of group chat text,
Mm-hmm.
and I think about where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
As tough as that decision was, man, I wouldn't trade it. It like one, they both are now state champion basketball players, state champions at the school that they transferred to, and one of them just started her freshman year in college, and the other one's a senior in high school that has already been awarded a scholarship.
Congratulations.
Right, and so I know the road that we had to go on as players and coaches and as their family.
Mhm.
I know what that's like and how complex the decision was.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm looking at it and it's like, man, that was simple. Like because
Perfect.
because we got our end goal.
Ooh.
Our end goal was scholarships. Our end goal was how can we help you be the best version of you?
That's so beautifully stated. And to be clear, what I heard, and I'm not going to assume, the difficult decision you had to make sounds like was for them not to be on your team or leadership.
Absolutely. That was the absolute hardest thing, was because I knew they had outgrown me.
Mm.
They had outgrown what I had to offer them. And yeah, would I have loved to keep mentoring? And well, I did keep mentoring. That never changes. But would I have loved to keep them playing for me? Absolutely. But it wasn't what was best for them. So I had to allow their wings to flourish in order for them to be the best version of them.
So I want to pause for a moment because I want to chew on it, but I want our audience to chew on what you just said. That when you care about someone, now we're gonna go back to ego.
Yeah.
You rather they go somewhere that's going to be in their best interest and position them for the end goal, which is a scholarship. Despite your ego, you their big brother, you can let them keep coaching for you,
Yeah.
but to do what's best for them, you let them go.
Absolutely.
You can apply that to any area in life. So I just want to pause and just let everybody just soak that in for a moment.
Absolutely. I think that's amazing because that's one area where I know better
Okay.
when it comes to edging God out. I know better. Like I know because of the mistakes that I've made in my past, I'm not even going to play with somebody else's life or livelihood in that way. Like if I make decisions based off me and my ego, like I'm gonna have to answer to a higher authority. And I know for everything that God has delivered me from, brought me through, I can't even take that risk. And so that's again going back to the simply complex part of coaching. That's why it's so frustrating when you do hear negative because you're like, I won't even play around with somebody else's life like that because it's their life and it's the kid's life. And I think that any person that's in coaching leadership feels that.
And I like how you put the two terms together.
Yeah.
Coaching, leadership.
Yeah, because it's two different things.
Different things.
There's coach and then there's coaching leadership. And there's a lot of coaches. There's a lot of people that are standing on sidelines and, you see some of the behavior and you're like, oh yeah, you're just a coach.
Right. But the leadership doesn't go with it. And this is where your genius is, because the book is simply complex, leading out of authenticity. And I love how you're incorporating the leading part of this
Yeah.
and the leadership part of this.
Yeah, because man, I know what I crave.
Mm.
I remember craving that leadership as a kid, and my coach wasn't able to give it to me. But I saw what that other coach did, because that other coach ended up coaching my youngest brother in high school and then helped get him a college scholarship. And they still have a relationship to this day.
Mhm.
So I know what a real coach leadership looks like. And
Yes.
not only does my brother have a relationship with him, but so do I, because that's the type of person he was. And so I got that example from him,
Mhm.
and I just like I knew. And then I started to see like coaches that I looked up to, that's the way that they operate.
Yeah. So would it be safe to say that you're also building leaders?
Absolutely. Because not to keep hammering home Deja Armstrong, but she's a leader.
Thank you.
And that's the thing about it, why I was so excited about her decisions, because I know she's gonna end up being somebody's leader from whatever she puts her mind to. And I have players like right now, one of the girls I started with in fourth grade, she's a sophomore in college. Her name's Destiny Marshall. She's
Go Destiny!
yeah, she's a sophomore at Radford,
Mhm.
and she's doing great in basketball.
Mhm.
But the text messages I get from her
Mhm.
that get me like running around my house. Recently, she was the number one person on her team for lifting weights.
And I remember that video of them lifting weights.
Like, so I can go back in my archive and see
That's
where we
right.
started and how she used to fight me because she didn't want no parts of it.
Right.
And I mean, like the battles that I had to go through when she was fifth grade and sixth grade to get her to even show up to the gym. To we ain't shooting basketball, we just lifting weights
Right.
and we running hills, and she don't want no parts of that. To see where she's at now, I know I've created a leader.
Yes.
To see her in Disney World as part of her university's mentorship program, I don't care about basketball. Like,
Right.
she's gonna have a great career, but at the end of the day, I know it's about what she's becoming.
Mhm.
And not just her, but I've got, to shine light on the boys. One of the boys that I first started coaching with, he is a successful business owner. He's a
Love
successful
it.
father. He's got two businesses that are doing great. And that's the stuff that when Father's Day rolls around, happy birthday, coach. It would be where I'm at without you.
Wow.
That's the stuff that matters to me.
I love that. So, and yes, because we love our boys too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, a slight feminist. I'm not all the way there, but I do. I love our boys, and I want to see them all doing amazing. And so, thank you for investing in them. So, I'm hearing mentorship.
Yes.
One of the things you did in your program is our girls were paired with mentors.
Yes.
So, like the girls who had really graduated and moved on, or some with just higher levels, you made sure you paired them with the younger players. Talk a little more about mentorship and the important role that it plays.
Yeah, so I don't know if I can put a true value or emphasis on how much I believe in mentorship, but I do. Like, it is to me priority for everybody's life. In fact, I got somebody I'm gonna recommend for you when we get done.
Oh, thank you so much.
But my reason behind doing that is because if where you want to go is level D, why not put somebody in your life that has already ascended to this?
Yes.
And so from a basketball perspective, when I was pairing girls with older girls, it was because they had already been through my program.
Okay.
And they knew what to expect and what challenges come with it. And so I wanted to make sure that I gave the girls that were coming through what they didn't have.
Right.
Like, so I'm giving y'all a leg up to where
Mhm.
you could be even better than the girls that came before you. But it's like that in life for me. Like even now, I have a business coaches and business mentors
Mhm.
that I call on, and they're not always, older than me.
Right.
Like, in fact, I was just literally listening to one of my business mentors talk, and he's young. Like when
Mhm.
I say he's young, he's probably 20. He's probably the same age as my oldest daughter.
Your mentor.
Yeah, my mentor.
Speak on it.
He was talking about how his parents wanted him to be lifelong military.
Mhm.
And he did 4 years in the military, but he got out because he's a multimillionaire. And
Mm.
he just talked about how you have to walk your own path. And so when these kids that are coming up these days, they have more options available to them than we did. And they have more information available to them than we did.
Mhm.
So you have to be able to kind of be flexible
Yeah.
with what you're giving them. You can't give them what you got growing up and think that that's the only way, like your way or the highway. Because my way, the way I grew up being coached, we literally got cursed at, we got balls thrown at us,
Mhm.
and full transparency, my coach in high school smoked cigarettes in practice.
Oh, that was common. That
It
was
was
a
common,
norm.
right? So I can't now take just because that's how I grew up and give it to what kids.
Good teaching.
Yeah, so I've got to be adaptable. I've got to be flexible, and so mentorship to me, I just recently hired a business coach. Her name is Ashley Borden, and she's all the way in California. And the insight and information she gave me in the first couple of weeks was mind blowing.
Wow.
But I'm like, I needed that if I
Absolutely.
want to continue to grow.
Mhm.
So mentorship is huge to me.
And I would absolutely agree, which is why I lit up when you said I have someone for you in mind, because that's something I felt like I've needed over the years, didn't have asked people even recently. Thankfully, one of my former guests, he did agree to serve as a mentor. And on that topic, do you believe that you need different mentors for different areas in your life?
1,000%. 1,000%. Because uh, uh, for what I like about today's information age is
Mhm.
it's available to you.
It is.
And you will be surprised just how willing people are to help if you
Mhm.
ask.
If you ask.
If you ask. And different areas require different things.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I can mentor somebody in basketball and I can mentor somebody in certain areas of business, but there are certain areas that I need help myself.
Right.
So there's no way that I'm going to try to tackle that without getting him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the interest of time, because it's different when I'm sitting at my desk or in front of the computer. I don't even know what time it is. I don't have my Fitbit on. But one of the things I think I would like to leave with our guests, just on the topic of simply complex, is how would you encourage someone, or what would you say to someone who feels different? Like you talked about perfectionism,
Yeah.
and you talked about how that sometimes would make you stuck. We all struggle with something different. So, what encouragement or what advice would you give someone who feels simply complex like we do, but they look at it as a negative?
Yeah, and I did too for a long time.
Mhm.
Like for a very long time I struggled with like just wanting to be kind of normal.
Yeah.
And kind of like, why does my brain tick like
Mhm.
this on such an extravagant level?
Yes.
But I've come to realize that that is how God wired me, and that's how He made me. So for somebody that is struggling that way, I would tell them, and I would suggest to them to tap into the Creator.
Okay.
Because if your car breaks down,
Hmm.
you're not gonna open up your drawer with all the plastic bags in it and the old things that you've got in your drawers that has the TV manual and start trying to figure out how to open your car hood.
No.
You're gonna go to the car manual.
Mhm.
So people forget like we have an instruction manual.
Yeah.
And I did for a very long time. My first half of my life, like I looked at the instruction manual as optional. Like I don't need to read that in order to be successful or get where I'm at. But man, by the grace of God, I now cannot function without that instruction manual. So for somebody that's struggling with that level of perfection, I would say tap into the creator, tap into the instruction manual. And for everybody, that may not mean cracking open the Bible. That may mean cracking open a book.
Talk about it.
By somebody like a T. Jakes or a Joyce Myers.
Oh, huge fan.
Yeah, because those are the books that started me. Like I wasn't able to just crack it open and just start peeling away at it. I had to kind of get walked into it by some of those people who, again, mentors that know more than I do, that can help me to reach the level that it was of understanding that I was searching for.
I love that. No, nicely stated. Now, to end things on a high or a fun note, we're going to talk about your happy place.
Yeah.
And I think you're pretty quick and savvy enough to answer this question. I've only done it with one other guest because I believe that, like, I'm a processor, so I'm not good off the cuff.
Okay.
So I could be like on maybe problem solving team, but you don't want me on quick recall because y'all gonna lose.
Sure.
But so first I'm gonna ask, just what is your happy place? Like if you couldn't take a vacation or go somewhere right here in your lovely home, what is it that puts a smile on your face and lifts you up?
Being in the gym.
Okay.
I can literally, I can sleep in the gym. I can eat in the gym. I just love being in the gym. That is really my happy place. I'm evolving and trying to expand my happy place outside of the gym. But that truly is a happy place for me.
And I think that's okay. I think sometimes we do try to look at maybe what other people are doing. You kind of touched on that earlier and say, well, if these things make them happy, then what's wrong with me? If the gym makes me happy, no, that's what puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
So now the question I'm going to ask, that I've only asked one other guest, and she knocked it out. So are you into music?
Oh, very much so.
So what I would like to do is talk about your Mount Rushmore.
Oh.
So top 4.
Okay.
So I don't know if it'll help if I do like a certain genre or an era, like 90s. Would that help you?
No, I have a top 4. I have a top 5.
I gotta write this down.
Yeah. It's probably a little unconventional from the answers you may have heard in the past, but I just know where I'm at in life. And my wife, she can attest to this because she is around me all the time and she knows how much music means to me.
I love music.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So number 1, Vashawn Mitchell.
Vashawn Mitchell.
Number 1.
Okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Got introduced to Vashawn Mitchell in 2009, I believe. It was probably one of the low points of my life, and his music changed the way that, like, that was an introduction to the instruction manual. Because his music was just like piercing me and how it literally just spoke God's language. So,
is there a certain song?
Nobody Great.
Nobody Great.
Nobody Great.
I was getting ready to break out, but I don't want to make anybody jealous. So, no, I love that song.
Nobody Great.
Yeah.
Vashawn Mitchell, number 1.
Number 1.
William McDowell, number 2.
Okay.
Number 3.
Go back.
Oh, William McDowell.
Which song?
Oh man, now let's see. William McDowell's my favorite, absolute favorite. What is the name of William's song?
You can sing it if you just know the lyrics.
I really be doing a disservice. I think they would file copyright.
Okay, true. So you can't sing the song.
Yeah. They would literally be like, oh, this YouTube is a band.
Well, we can come back to it.
Come back, because I can't think of, like, he had, like, his whole album, like, his albums just flow as one. So
that's fair.
One song. Number 3, let's see, Travis Green.
I love
Number
Travis
3.
Green.
Yeah,
Okay.
Travis Green.
Any particular song of Travis's?
Let's see. You Made a Way.
Yes.
Travis
Okay.
Green, You Made a
Familiar with
Way.
that one. Okay.
And let's see. If I'm thinking about my Apple playlist, who else? I like Israel Houghton. He's probably number 5.
Okay.
That's probably number 5. And then number 4, Travis Green, Deshaun Mitchell, William McDowell. I would probably say, Thistle.
Okay, so now, so I'm listening so I can check out new music, but most of yours I know. So Thistle.
Yeah, because he is the first person that I heard speak from a street perspective. About loving God.
Okay.
And he is so authentic in his delivery.
Thistle.
Yeah, it's spelled Thi. It's spelled like this L.
Oh, okay.
Thi apostrophe SL, and he's from St. Louis, so this is St. Louis. And
clever.
Yeah, he is extremely good. He's extremely good.
Well, I have to check him out. So for you, from the looks of it, your genre is gospel.
1000%.
Do you like any other genres?
I did.
You did?
I did.
You're better than me.
Yeah.
You're more righteous than me. Yeah. Because I still like some of those genres.
I did, but at the same time, that was who I was.
Okay.
And, in my past life, I was a nightclub owner.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was all I
makes sense.
It was all I listened to. And it was just one of those things where I had to examine and say, what's coming in is what I'm putting out.
I hear you.
And what I was putting out wasn't good.
Oh, okay.
What I was putting out wasn't good. So again, when God redeemed me and he saved me, I had to examine every aspect of my life. What was coming in, what I was watching, what I was listening to, what I was eating. Everything had to change.
Okay.
And it has changed for the better. So
nice.
I'm the best version that I've ever been. Like, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm in the best spirit of my life, and I'm only getting better.
Only getting
better. And my wife contributes to that on a daily basis.
So sweet. That partner that helps.
Absolutely.
That person of accountability and someone who helps you get there.
Yeah.
This has been amazing.
She's my incubator. So whatever I give her, she just takes it to that next level.
I love it. So you have it. We just had like a wonderful conversation. And it is hard in person to like really forget that you're recording.
Oh, easy.
So it's happened like even over the Zoom, but like sitting here and me having no idea what time it is, right. I could easily keep going, but I'm like, okay, we better wrap this up. So I just want to thank you just for being a remarkable guest.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for your leadership, your support, giving back to the community. And so I'm going to tell you to keep leading out of authenticity.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Pillar Talk with Rochelle. Authentic people, real stories. Rochelle Armstrong, leading authentically.